Good morning, good morning, good morning, Facebook. Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to Soulful Solutions. Welcome to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green. It's a pleasure having you here today. I'm so glad that you joined us. Let me get my co-host on the other end. Look at that. Bam.
Hey, all right.
Behind this morning. Oh my God. It's been
Yes.
good.
Well, Doc,
I can't hear you.
let me make sure my sound is not muted.
Oh, I got you. I got you
And
now.
and also I was just speaking to our listening audience, and let me play your intro so they can all hear, and we can officially welcome Dr. Debbie Green.
To Soulful Solutions with Dr. Debbie Green on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear great topics and stories on grief and turn it into victory. Join Dr. Debbie Green to listen for stories of triumph and learn how to overcome. You are not alone in your life, and there is hope in the darkest hour.
Might
This is
change
your
his head
time
wrap
to learn
before this is over.
strategies and solutions to improve your life. It's your
I
time.
love it.
Join Dr. Debbie Green with Soul Solutions and call in on Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time and 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at 515-605-9325 with comments and questions. Look to hear from you real soon.
All right, all right. Welcome to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green. It is a pleasure to have you here today. Good morning, Naima. How
Good
are you?
morning. Good morning.
I
I
can. Can you
had
hear
in
me
mind
okay?
a look that I wanted to have, and it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted.
Oh,
I look like
what?
one of those people
With
with
the
the war
little.
symbol with the tassel on the side of the head. So I'm like,
Oh, is that a hat? Is
look,
that
I
a
was
hat or a
looking.
scarf that you have around?
Yes. The scarf is a lot thicker than I realized.
I mean, it's kind of cute. It's different than what.
I might change it in the course of this show.
Okay, that's all right. That's okay. I understand. I sometimes when we put things on our hair, you know me. The day it was like a pullback ponytail today, honey, because I'm like, woo, it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, I might
Well,
have
I
to
can
do that.
officially say Happy New Year to you because I hadn't seen you. We
Yeah.
talked on the show, but I just wanted to say Happy New Year again because we're still in the month of January, so you can say Happy New Year all this month, okay?
Right.
Really. So I'm just glad to be here again. On this side of the dirt, as one would say.
Yes.
It is a blessing. It is a blessing. Our topic today is really a topic that really is a serious topic, and it is really one of those subject matters that affects us in so many different ways. So when I actually wanted to really bring this in fruition to our listeners and viewers, I wanted to look at the damage that happens, but also look at how we could do damage control. Because I wanted the both of the sides to be examined because I just don't want people to think that divorce is damaging. Sometimes it's not always damaging, and then sometimes it is. So it just depends on how you are looking at it and what you're going through and the factors that play in that divorce. Because some people go through divorce, they're mutual. Okay, it's time to move on.
Yeah, and nobody's angry, and they're like, okay, well, this relationship is over, and that's fine.
Yep,
And
that's
one
it.
of the things I was saying to people is that we need to change the language when we talk about marriage and not use language like failed marriage, because a marriage
Right,
didn't fail because it ended. What is that saying? Some people are meant to be with you for a season. So
right.
not every union, even though we might take vows, oh, I'm gonna be your spouse forever. Well, people, number one, people are living longer. So forever is a lot longer than it used to be.
Yes,
And
yes,
we change. We change every year, every decade. We evolve. And sometimes we evolve in a direction that is no longer harmonious with where we were when we united with that person. Because
correct.
you basically you attract what you are.
Yes,
And so at the time of the attraction, you may both have been in that same place in your life, that same vibration, but then you have evolved and you might have gone in this direction, they might have gone in that direction. So you're no longer in harmony, you're no longer walking together. So
yeah,
you're in conflict because you can't make them be what you are, they can't make you be what they are. The best thing to do, the most honorable thing to do is to part ways. So, like you say, not every divorce is as a result of a domestic violence situation or an abusive situation.
right,
Sometimes
right.
you're just no longer a compatible match. And out of
Yes,
respect for each other's right to grow, it's best to let go. And it doesn't mean you failed, it means you understand that you have grown in different directions. You didn't foresee that
absolutely.
in the beginning. You thought you would always be where you were. But
Hmm.
we don't stay in one place, we evolve. And
Right,
that reality being what it is, rather than hold somebody in a relationship where they're not getting the fulfilling desire that they wanted, the sense of harmony and completeness and partnership that they wanted, because you're not going in the same direction, free them and free yourself to be who you were meant to be. And it's okay. It doesn't mean you failed. It means you grew apart and you honored each other enough to let each other go in the ways that you need to go so you can continue to grow.
right, absolutely. Now you're talking about the logical side of divorce. You do know that, don't you?
Yeah,
Okay,
most
so
people are
it's
not
a
logical.
no, no. So, well, what I did was I checked the statistics, Naima, and what I realized since 2020 that divorce rates have increased 35%.
Wow.
So when they were having that cave experience, as I call
Mhm.
it, when they were, all of the broken relationships or the challenged relationships, because you're like me, I don't like the word fail. So
Right.
broken relationship or challenged relationships became intensified, right? So that then caused an array of various factors to literally come to the surface.
Yeah.
Well, we know causes of domestic violence because lack of communication, lack of trust, infidelity, these things, this, kind of intensifies the ability to when one loses their faithfulness in a divorce, right? So, there's many factors. Those are some of the causes, but the factors never cease to amaze me, which means they increase daily. You know what I'm saying? Some people can go through a divorce because they lost their job. They'll go through divorce because they lost a child. They'll go through divorce because of family issues, because of the mother-in-law, the sister-in-law. I mean, it's so many different factors why a person said, I don't want to be in your life anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I may still love you, but I can't be with you. I can't live with you. I
Yeah.
can't live in the same space. And then
Yeah.
you got those areas of divorce where it becomes convenient divorce. Guess what? They don't have a paper, a document saying that, oh, we're no longer together. But guess what? We sleep in separate rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're still together, but
We're
we're
not.
not together. So
Right.
now it's a marriage of convenience to save faith because nobody wants to
You get a
lose
keeper.
anything. They don't want to lose a car. They don't want to lose a house. They don't
Right.
want to lose a business. They don't want to touch their bank accounts and things of this nature. Okay, so now it's a divorce of what you call of convenience, right? Okay, so
Right.
it's so many factors. But the first thing I want to examine, because I don't want to be all over the place. We're going to do what the causes are and the factors, and how that divorce can cause dysfunction, how it can cause dysfunction and defective relationships between both people, but more so cause sickness.
Mm.
Okay, so we got to go on that side first before we go on the good side. And the only reason I'm starting this side because I want the viewers and the listeners to know if you are going through something like this, you have to make a conscious choice in the matter. The worst thing to do is stay in a marriage that that has been causing emotional and mental damage to
Yeah.
you, not just to a loved one, not just to children, but to you. Because guess what? If it's causing mental and emotional damage to you, it's a good chance it's affecting other people as well. It's affecting your children. It could be affecting your mother, your father. I mean, it's so many people that are affected just by two people in a relationship. All right. So we look at the damage. Damage comes from many, many different reasons in divorce. One of the main reasons is because of what they call compromise misery.
Mm.
Okay?
Compromise, misery.
Compromise misery. Oh, I'm here because I have to be in this marriage. Okay, and who made that decision? I did.
Yeah.
I made that decision to be in this marriage to death do your part because I got an obligation unto God. Okay, now here
Yes,
comes
that's what
religion.
people are believing.
Okay,
I've seen
compromise
it.
misery.
I've
Right,
seen
right.
it. I
So,
have to
so
say, I promise God, even though I hate every day of my life, but I made a vow to God that I would stay here. So even though it's stressful, it's unfulfilling, I'm angry and hurt all the time, I vowed to stay here. So I'm just going to suffer through it.
so that person then no longer, Naima, lives for themselves anymore. They have made a decision to not live for themselves. Guess what they're living for? They're not even living for the other person. They're living for misery.
Ooh. So why is there a belief that this is what God wants? I mean,
It's
I
because
have
of their cultural
hmm,
beliefs. It's a
culture.
cultural belief. You have it all the way across the nation, all the way across the country, all the way across the country. It's a cultural belief that one should not divorce once you're married. You stay in the
You
marriage.
stay
I don't care if
in.
it's abusive. I don't care what happens. You stay in the marriage. It's a cultural belief. Now the thing about this is in the northern culture, which is North America, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
We are subject to that. But at the same token, most people, again, they compromise with it for a period of time. And then that's when things really start to fall and get out of control. But this is the thing that I want somebody to remember is when you compromise with misery, then you have no out. Because
That's true. Yeah.
in your mind, you feel you can't escape in your mind because the brain has adapted to the misery. The conscious mind is saying, "Oh, somebody rescue me because I can't rescue myself." But the subconscious mind say you are trapped and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, this is when things start to get really, really ugly
Mm,
because now people are subject to do things of desperate measures, if you
yeah,
know what I mean.
yes.
Okay, and we see this all the time. Oh, I'd rather take you out in a nice way of saying I'll find some way to get rid of you,
Then to
you
just
know what
get
I'm
a
saying?
divorce.
Then to get a divorce, because they get a divorce, they got to split everything. They don't want to split nothing.
That's
And then you have
insane.
those areas of a person that's going through a divorce that wants to take everything from you.
Yes.
And now you again,
Yeah.
you feel some way. So it's like I said, the factors are forever changing in that. But I want people to steady as you go. The thing about this is proactive living is very important. So again, we're going to go through these things. Compromise misery. All right. The next thing we'll do, if you go compromise and stay in a miserable relationship, what then happens is emotional and mental damage
Ooh.
because that's the only thing that can happen out of that. And out of emotional and mental damage, here comes sickness, high blood pressure. You see, heart disease. So look where it leads to. Look what I mean. And I'm not saying this for everybody, people. I'm just telling you, it's reality. Compromise. misery is real. It can even lead to homicide and suicide.
Mm.
When somebody gets to a point where they can't, in their mind, they feel trapped in their mind. They feel a trap door that they can't get out of, which is, it's not an option. It's not the truth of the matter, but because of that person's emotional they're fragile. They're fragile. They're
Mm.
fragile. They're vulnerable because they were already in some type of compromised misery. It could have been depression, could have been emotional issues as they grew up as children. It could be anything. It could be a difficulty on the job. You see what I'm saying? But then you come on to a failed marriage. Oh, look at that word F, fail. To
Fail.
a difficult, broken marriage. What you think is going to happen? You're gonna crumble. You're going to crumble in yourself. You're going to decay. You're going to. I mean, I hate to use these words, but I want you to really understand the emotional damage that is done. The emotional damage that is done. Okay, so that being said, compromise, misery. So let's go to the next thing. The next thing is when one feels that you're not being heard, you're being taken advantage of, but you're still doing it anyway. Codependent marriage. Codependent. Codependent. My life revolves around you. You are my idol. I can never lose you. I have to do everything that you say. I cannot, I gotta do everything in my power to make you happy.
In order
Everything. It doesn't
to
matter what I want. It doesn't matter what the kids want. As long as you get what you want, because it's a good chance you're a narcissist. It's a good chance because you want everything your way. You don't want to compromise. You don't want to show love. You want all the bills paid at a certain time. You want all the money to go a certain place. No one has a voice in the family but you.
Now, is that a cultural conditioning? Because I've seen
Yes.
cultures where that's very prevalent, where women are conditioned to believe that this is their role. You are to be as a servant to your husband. You do what he wants. You compromise or dismiss your own desires. You live for him, and you just submerge your desires, needs, dreams to whatever it is he wants. You make sure you keep him happy. That is your success as a woman. If you fail and he leaves you, then you are a failure as a woman. So I know so many women who are deeply conditioned with that belief, and they will stay, and as you said, compromised misery. They will stay in that situation believing that this is what God has ordained for them, and believing that if they leave, they are sinning against God. So they will choose a lifetime of misery rather than simply leave the situation and be at peace. And they're believing that this is God's will for them because this is what they are taught, and they're afraid to question it. They're
Ex-
choosing to live in misery.
exactly. And I just want to let my viewers and listeners know. Now we're not bashing men, okay? But this is the female solution, just so
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So we're coming from a platform of a woman's point of view. Right now, we know the coin can flip on the other
Oh,
side.
yeah,
Men can be abused too. Okay, I
absolutely.
totally
And
understand
stay
that.
in misery and
And
stay
that's
in
right.
miserable
I
situations.
don't minimize that at all because I've talked to many people in my position in my workplace to let you know that men suffer too. Okay, all right,
Yes.
but I'm talking about the mentality of a human being. The mentality of a human being, whether they're man or woman, goes through the same. Because men look at it differently than women do, because women are a little more emotional than most. You
And
see what I'm
sometimes a
saying?
little more dependent financially. That's been the
Right,
history. But now when
right.
you get to the part where we talk about the infidelity, many men that I have interviewed or had conversations with and asked them, they are miserable in their marriage, But
Yeah.
again, they're believing that, because of social pressures or obligations that they made and their vow to God, that it's wrong to divorce. So they simply have an affair outside of their marriage with someone who they enjoy being with and gives them whatever feelings they're not getting in their marriage. And they believe that this is the only way out that they have. I can't leave my wife and children, but I can't stand to be in that house. So therefore, I'm going to fulfill my emotional needs somewhere else, and this is what I must do. And that's how they end up living. And
Well,
I've
that
seen that over and over and over again. And men are believing this is the only way the society will accept me getting emotional fulfillment, because I'll be looked down on if I leave my family.
Well, I mean, again, that's common. It's a common thing to do, but it's not. I would say, what I'm saying. The thing about it is, then you're not leading a truthful life. You're leading a lie. So as long as you do that, then you just bringing in negative energy into the marriage more, because now there's no balance. You're really out of balance. It should be, like you say, a mutual understanding. We have some Facebook comments I want to share with our listeners. Grand Rising, this is from Queen Zelda Robinson, our Monday's host. Grand Rising, my beautiful sisters. So grateful for this show. No compromise, misery. Nothing lasts forever. Mass programming. She also said, let it go and grow. GROW. Get rid of worthlessness. Oh, I'm
Right?
loving that.
Get rid
We
of
have the
worthlessness.
power, but we must practice mindfulness, trust inner self. And also, here comes our Friday's host, Vieta Robinson. Grand Rising Sisters, thank us for this. Well, is that US? So I said us
Yeah,
for
thank
this
us.
discussion. Lessons galore. Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh-oh. We got a comment for you. Beautiful ensemble. Oh, thank you, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you. I
yeah,
told her innocence is cute as a button. She just said, that's all
yeah,
right. Be
yeah.
beautiful, baby. Be beautiful in all
Okay.
you doing. Be beautiful. Let me tell you
Get you
something.
the
That's
test.
what it's all about. Is enjoying life, right? So this I wanna hone in on a factor of that factors that, again, not the causes, because we did the causes. Causes could be anything. So let's look at some of the factors of what play into a a challenged divorced. We don't want, like I said, we don't want to say failed. We want
Right.
to say challenged. All
Yeah.
right. So we got several. You got several issues right there. Okay. It's the mentality of both of those people, the
Yeah.
mindsets. It's the emotional. You know what I'm saying? The emotional areas that of their being, how they apply themselves. You know what I'm saying? Then you have the sexual orientations, how they see themselves,
Yes.
in their marriage. Because guess what? Marriage can sometimes start off heterosexual, but then end up somewhere else, if you know what I
And
mean.
that has happened, and I think
Yes.
sometimes, and I've known people, both male and female, where they started out with a partner. Oh, let it hang. Really, really. Let the tassel hang out. Yeah, okay.
She said, let it hang
I'm
loose,
gonna do
baby.
this because you said it, Zelda. I'm gonna do it because you said it.
Man.
Now,
So, but you're right though. It transitions. So it starts off very sexual, and then later on, you notice that one of your partners, excuse me, your significant other, or your husband, or your wife decides not to be heterosexual anymore. Okay, so
yeah.
now the sexual orientation has changed.
And
All
you know
right.
what I've discovered, again, I've had both male and female friends and associates who've experienced this, and it's
Yeah.
devastating to them because they're believing that they did something or didn't do something that caused the person to change their orientation, when in fact that's who they were in the beginning.
Right.
And because society wasn't accepting who they are, they then embarked on a relationship that was not honest with who they are. And somewhere in the relationship, they decided to express who they really were from the beginning. And that's what happened. So the
Yeah.
person didn't turn gay or turn lesbian. That's who they were, but they felt the social pressure to mask it with a marriage to someone of the opposite sex.
Right.
And
Right.
it was devastating to the person whom they married, because that person might either blame themselves for being inadequate or feel deceived or used. And sometimes that's the case where, you know, someone needs to hide from their family their true orientation because their family would not accept it. But ultimately, they ended up expressing the reality of who they are.
Right. Right.
So,
Exactly. So
better to get
now,
something in the beginning, but sometimes it's the fear of family and society rejection that makes a person mask it and choose to move forward with a marriage that is not sincere to what they are on the inside.
right, absolutely. And you know, the thing about this is it's an ongoing thing until it gets to a point where everything comes out and
Yes,
then you have no other choice but to, you know, move out of that marriage. And that's dealing with that particular factor. And again, you know, there's so much pressure when it comes to what a marriage is anyway. You know what I'm saying?
right,
Like what it should be. I mean, you have what society says, and then you have again what religion says, and then
yeah,
you have the culture. So
yeah,
those are all different ways a person should, you know, be together in some type of way. And then you have common law. Okay?
yes,
Common law marriage doesn't have a paper. It
right,
doesn't it, it doesn't go before a judge or pastor or whatever. You know, you have people that been with each other for like 10, 15 years, but they're
right,
not married. You
right.
see what I'm saying? But
And
it's
you
still
know,
common law.
and I think people, and what I've observed that people do that believing that they can avoid the pain of divorce if they don't ever officially marry. So the idea is, well, if we split, it won't be as painful with having to go through the law and lawyers and judges and alimony and all this sort of thing. It won't be as painful if we simply never get that paper. But
Right.
what I've observed is the emotional distress of parting ways is just as intense, even though you never got the piece of paper. And sometimes the legal entanglement can be even worse because now you've got things that you bought in common, and you got to fight over who owns what. And unless you had some type of pre-arrangement or agreement that, well, if we split, you take away all your stuff, I take away all my stuff, and we sell everything we bought in common and split the difference or whatever. Unless you have an agreement, that's going to be just as messy legally as if you had been married. So you don't really avoid anything, but people tend to do that because they want to avoid the pain of all the things that happen when you get a divorce and it's a legal matter and you have to deal with lawyers and judges and it costs you.
Correct, correct, correct. So that's another factor in itself. And then of course, because I'm just gonna it will take us like hours to go through all the factors. I just picked out the main priority factors, and we're dealing the next one is children. Okay.
Mm,
Children. Divorces. I checked divorces, 20% of divorces, you know, are challenged or broken due to children, due to children. Now, children, when I say children, I'm talking about children that have been difficult to raise,
mm,
those type of children, as well as loss of a child, like
yeah.
loss of a child due to
Yes,
death.
child,
The
yes.
you know, 20% of divorces happens because the marriage fails itself, like the mutual agreement is failed because of the pressure of the grief
Yeah.
upon those two people, and that's when they depart. And one could blame each other, whatever the case may be.
And
It
that
could
too.
go, you know, go on to all of these different things. However, you know what I'm saying? The truth of the matter is that you never know how strong or how weak your marriage is until you
So you
have
go through
experienced
difficult.
pressure.
Yes. Yes.
I don't care if you've been married for 15 years. 15 years. If you are experiencing pressure, pressure is one of those things, come from many, many different factors, of course, but you're going to know if your mate is strong enough to stay in the trenches with you, or if they're going to bail out. You see what I'm saying? And you think, well, I thought I knew you. I thought we were together. We did this and we did that. But then something happened when it came to our children. You know what I'm saying? Because we can't have children, we fell apart. Because we lost children, we fell apart. Because our children became too difficult, we fell apart. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that happens. And I've known couples where that's happened. And sometimes you need help. When we don't get counseling after tragedy, a grief where a child dies, and we start turning on each other, that's when the marriage arises. There's so much anger, there's so much hurt, and sometimes there's blame, depending on how the death happened. If you're blaming one partner or another one feels guilty, you have to get some help. That's what therapists are for. That's what counselors are for. That's
correct.
What people are in the business of helping the wounded soul of a person that's going through difficulties, so that you can heal from the pain and not turn on each other and not damage the relationship. But many of us, we're not getting help when we're in distress because, again, culturally, you're supposed to suck it up or whatever. If you belong to a religious community, people say, well, just pray about it. But you need to have people that can be the instruments of God in your life to help you. And that's what we have to understand, so that we can seek the help. We got to take a quick break.
Yes.
And when we come back, of course, we invite you all to call in 515-605-9325 and press 1 to talk to Dr. Debbie as we discuss the intricacies of marriage and divorce in these times. And we want to hear from you. So feel free to call in, or you can join us live on Facebook. Look for Soulful Solutions, and you'll see that beautiful face of Dr. Debbie Green. And I'm here with my big smile. And we will be right back after this quick break. So we want you to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment. So stay with us.
We have an opportunity to transform the whole global society in the next 50 years. 50 years from now, Earth will be populated by a new generation of adults, many of whom will be born. Our mission is to nurture them in childhood with love, guidance, and protection, and to raise them in healthy, happy families. If we impart values of compassion, generosity, and respect for fellow human beings in the next generation of children, they will create a world where people can live together in peace. This is our goal. Be a part of the transformation. Get your copy of the book, The Female Solution. Go to www.naimalatif.com. That's www.naimalatif.com.
Crime in Chicago continues to increase. Communities and politicians must come together to make a change. No one person can solve these problems by themselves, but I believe together we can make progress. Let's provide job training, economic growth, and invest into our 77 communities. Let's rebuild and restore Chicago. Vote for me for mayor of Chicago. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Willie Wilson for mayor.
I'm Beata, your holistic life coach. These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle. You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata.
And here we are. Let me see. Oh, eyes cannot see what I'm looking at. Sometimes when you get up, don't put on your contact lenses.
I'm gonna recreate my music. I love that little music. Welcome back, welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green, and I have my wonderful host here, Miss Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. If you're just joining us, either on Facebook or in our viewership or listening on Blog Talk, our subject to matter today is life after and before divorce, marital damage control. I'm telling you, it is a serious thing. It really is.
It
So,
is.
this other factor I wanted to point out, which is one of the critical factors, of course, is when the family causes a divorce.
Mm.
Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, the in-laws. I can't take it no more.
Mm.
That's it. You deciding with them, and I'm tired of them in our lives.
Yes.
Every time I turn around, they're listening. They want to be involved because they're codependent. They just want to be in our lives. When are they going to be out of our lives? You know? I mean, and this can cause a rift. This can cause a divorce between two parties just as easy as any other factor. Again, if the marital bond is not strong enough, it is going to crumble underneath pressure. You will know who can deal with the pressure and who can't. You know what I'm saying? Because over a period of time, it will be revealed. And so again, we go back, like you said, therapy, family therapy, and I'm not talking about the in-laws. I'm talking about between the two individuals
Yes.
because they got two different opinions when it comes to marriage, when it comes to interference in marriage. I just actually had a client recently. She was suffering a severe depression because of her marriage, and her marriage was it being interfered by the mother-in-law. The
Mm.
mother-in-law always wanted money from her husband, and it was an ongoing thing. It was like every time you turn around, she feels that, oh, you're supposed to help me. You're supposed to help me with my bills. And
Mm.
and because the father of the mother-in-law, the husband died. She lost her husband. The mother-in-law lost her husband.
Yes.
So the son
Like you have to
became the
step and be the
husband.
man in my life.
Yes, he became the husband. So now he was paying two household bills.
Mm.
And the wife is like, I can't go on like this. And
Mm.
so they didn't get along. The mother-in-law and the wife didn't get along. They found themselves constantly arguing and bickering to the point where she lost mental and emotional control of herself.
Wow.
And that's something. But this is reality, right? This
Yeah.
is one of the major factors. We call these things situational depression. Okay,
Yes.
situational depression is when you cycle in so many different ways. And she was saying, she's like, Dr. Deb, I'm trying to figure out how can I deal with this? How can I deal with this without losing myself?
Well,
Because I love my husband, but
but
I cannot continue this life. I'm struggling. I'm working overtime over here because we're just dishing out money
trying
to
to,
support this household of hers.
yeah.
And it's not like she's 80 years old. At the time, she was 60,
So
and when
she's
she's
still
not working,
oh,
she was not working
yeah. And
because
the thing about
that's
it,
how it works.
but those are some of the things that before people get married, they have to discuss because the reality is, if your parents are still living, that issue is going to come up. How do we
Yeah.
handle it when one of our parents passed away or gets ill? Do we bring them into our home? I mean, those things have to be talked about. And in some cultures, it's already decided, okay, the eldest son, whoever you marry, they need to know that your responsibility is to take care of our parents. So that's their role. So if they marry you, that's already understood. In some cultures, this is how it is. It's designated who's going to be the child that's responsible for the care of the parents. So whoever marries into that family, they already know that that's what's going to happen. That doesn't make it any easier, because sometimes people are difficult. They interfere in your marriage. They can still make you miserable, but at least it's not a surprise.
Right.
I think in cases where couples don't talk about it, and then you have an in-law that will take advantage of the situation and be demanding and selfish, it could really be destructive. And it's hard, especially if there's the guilt factor, because the son, well, he's going to feel guilty if he doesn't take care of his mother, and she's going to use that guilt to override what his wife is feeling. So there she is, not really being helpful in their marriage, but really wanting to deal with her own selfish needs. Well, I'm sorry, Ma, sometimes you can't have a lifestyle that you had when you were married, because the finances are different. So you can't demand that. You have to realize that your son has grown up and got his own family now. So if you want to fit in, then you got to make some compromises. But people don't think compromises. They think, what I want. You my child, you do what I say.
Yeah, but the thing about this is you're thinking on a logical term. Most people are emotional and impulsive.
Illogical.
I mean, I would love for everyone to think on a nice baseline, logical, rational, reasonable, mutual understanding.
But they're not.
I'm so sorry to tell you, my dear, we don't live in that type of world. Okay. And I'm just saying, most people are emotional or impulsive. So, which means me. It's all about me. I am the victim. I expect you to do this because I am the victim, because they think victim minded, right? So when a person thinks victim minded, they can't see a logical way out. They can't see a reason. Okay. So we go back to that. Marital counseling is very important, because those two components needs to fuse together on their trust about each other in order for that marriage to sustain and deal with this great challenge. Okay, the priority. You see what I'm saying?
Right. And it is. I mean, it is
okay.
workable.
The second one.
Let me let you
it
finish
is
that.
very workable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, we go into the workplace now. Workplace can also cause a divorce. And you would say, well, how can that be so? When a person works long extended hours and days and not pay attention to their spouse.
Yeah. And
the job is everything to you.
Yeah. And that's another cultural.
The business is everything to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen that also. Another cultural programming where your job is to take care of your family financially. And there's no training as to how to be supportive emotionally to your spouse, to your children. So you think, well, I've done my job. Don't I bring home the money? And you think that that's it. And you don't know that there's a totality of the marriage. Part of it is the companionship, the emotional support, the time, and if you're thinking, well, I work hard to provide for us, you should be grateful. They don't see the imbalance, because they don't know that part of their responsibility was also the companionship and the emotional support. Right. I mean, if you're absent, then what's the point of you being my spouse? I can get a check from the government. I want a person. And that's what people aren't understanding, because they may have been raised in a culture where work was the thing that you did, and that's all you needed to do. That was the
absolutely right. Absolutely right. So what happens is, Naima, they become emotional absent from the marriage, emotionally unavailable for the marriage, because they're focused on the money. As long as I pay the bills, don't you have a new car? Don't you have this beautiful house you're living in? You ain't never satisfied. And that's the way it looks like. It looks like from that point of view. But deep down inside, a person just wants to feel loved. It's not just about the money. You have some people out there, it makes a big difference. You carrying around that $500, pocketbook or whatever purse. But guess what? After the end of the day, I want to know if you love me. not just to make me feel good with these beautiful gifts or whatever, but do you love me? And not only that, you're taking these business trips all the time. You're constantly gone. I don't even see you. The children don't even see you. You've been absent for a long time. So again, they deal with it but so long, and after a period of time, it crumbles.
Yeah.
It crumbles.
Well, I had a conversation with a male friend who was deeply angry and bitter because just that same situation. He worked very hard, worked 2 jobs, was even trying to go to school and support his wife, and she had an affair.
Yeah.
And she was trying to express the fact that he was absent. He was absent emotionally, and he was so focused on his goal that he did not spend time with her, did not do the things she enjoyed. So she found someone who did. So he was very angry and bitter and enraged and talked about how ungrateful she was after all these sacrifices he made, and how selfish she was, and these American women, they're horrible, and all of this, they're so selfish. I'm gonna get me somebody who's foreign because they've been trained to be the right kind of wife, to support a man and appreciate a man. I mean, he was in a rage, and he didn't see the other side. He didn't see that he had become so dogmatic in his focus on, I'm making the money, and I'm keeping a roof over our head. You should be grateful. He wasn't seeing that what was now absent in their relationship was the emotional intimacy, which she still needed as a human being, and so she happened to find it somewhere else. So he didn't see the imbalance. All he saw was she's
Right.
ungrateful for how hard I worked.
Yes.
And of course, his male friends, yeah, these women, they don't appreciate a good hardworking man, because no one's teaching them that part of marriage is your emotional availability, your
Yes.
companionship. You have to be balanced, and you have to find a way to be balanced. I know it's hard if you're working 2 jobs because one isn't paying enough, but you got to figure it out. Figure out how you can make time for each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, nothing can grow without having a balance in emotions. It'll just stay the same. If it's dysfunctional, it'll get worse, because you're not correcting anything. You just, again, compromising with misery. We go back to that same term. And
Yeah.
that can affect us in so many, many different ways. So many different ways. So another one of those factors are actually one of the factors that can affect marriage, and it's intimacy. Intimacy is another one as well. Having a sexual dysfunction, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I,
So
I
before a person would before a person would just deal with that for long periods of time, they either, because they could then, of course, have an adulterous affair, but then, if they, depending on their morals and values, they're like, you know what, this just ain't working for me. I'm gonna have to go and find, I need to leave out of this marriage because I don't want to stay in this marriage and just make pretend like everything is okay when it's not. So
yeah,
that's another factor that
I've
we
seen
that
that.
we deal that yes,
And I
yes,
didn't realize how deep the sense of shame men feel
yeah,
when they go through a physical change and are experiencing dysfunction. I didn't
yeah,
realize that. I guess that's also, again, another cultural thing. You're not
yeah,
a man. I mean, that's what they feel on the inside. And I didn't realize how devastating it was to their self-esteem and the
hmm,
fear that they have that their spouse will now be unfaithful because they're unable to be fulfilling because of a physical malady. And because things happen, you
they
age,
do.
changes. And I mean, that's why that's why stuff like Viagra is so popular. And I didn't realize the psychological impact that
Oh yes,
sexual dysfunction has on men and their self-esteem, their sense of
hmm,
self-worth, and all of these things. And sometimes a man can become so paranoid because of his dysfunction that he starts to accuse the woman of having interests in other men, even if it's not happening, because of how he's feeling about himself. So the distrust factor, of course, adds to the likelihood of a divorce. If you're always accusing somebody of, every time they leave the house, who are you going to see? Because you weren't about, you didn't do things or couldn't do things. That erodes the relationship over time. And
it does.
The shame factor makes it so they can't even talk about it. Even though it's a medical issue, and it naturally can happen as a result of aging. And maybe, if you consult somebody, you can do some dietary changes. But because of, I don't know, our culture, people won't talk about it. They just sit and feel shame and anger and fear and guilt and suspicion and all these things that could be avoided if they just got some counseling.
Yeah. It always goes back to one finding themselves in the midst of it all, because it's easy to lose yourself in so many different things as life continues to happen. I also want to be mindful that this can also be a female area as well, that doesn't, feel that she can satisfy her husband due to whatever's going on in her body. You know what I'm saying? Because we know that females can have female issues, okay? And that makes us, even hormonal changes, menopause, a lot of things that can happen in the female's body where you don't feel beautiful anymore. You don't want to be touched. Some of them, you have problem with just being touched. I don't want to be touched. I don't feel comfortable with you touching me anymore. Even though the marriage has, been beautiful at the beginning stages, and then later on in life, you realize you are a stranger to this person. And of course, that can only go on but so long. So that's definitely one of those major factors. Do you want to take the break now at 9? Or before we go into the next factor, which is money?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Well, all right. Well, we will be right back. And if you're listening online and want to join this conversation, we want you to give us a call, 515-605-9325, and press 1 to speak to our host, Dr. Debbie Green. I mean, and we invite you to share your experience. Now, we don't say you got to tell all your business. If you want, you can say, I have this friend, and then we have to know it's you. But if you need some advice, that's why this show is here. So feel free to share your situation, and maybe we can assist you in thinking through it. What's the best way that you can address your difficulty? So we'll be right back after this break. So stay with us.
Do you worry about finances, family, health, jobs, relationships? Are you in pain? Do you feel stuck? If you answered yes to any of these questions, help is available. Don't worry, you're not alone. It's part of the human process. You only feel this way because you haven't mastered the voices in your head.
Sorry,
no hype, just down to earth, workable tools and techniques that you can practice. Food for the soul.
Well,
too much weight on my head.
That's right. Don't compromise with that misery.
Promote your product or service, or just make extra money.
I know.
Go to zeldaspeaks.com or call 312-409-6619. Mention promo code The Female Solution and get free shipping. That's zeldaspeaks.com or 312-409-6619. Stop worrying today. Visit zeldaspeaks.com.
Hi, this is John Alexander.
And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world. Watch us every day on The Media Connection at www.youtube.com/The Media Connection TV.
YouTube it. We'll see you soon.
There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their stories to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection. Mondays at 5 p.m. and Tuesdays at 12 noon on Cable TV, Channel 19 in Chicago, and other cities. Check your local cable listing. Hey, it's time to take charge of your health. I'm Beata, your holistic life coach, and every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I'm here on the Female Solution to empower you to make choices that will assist your evolution to abundant health. I'm also blogging every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at Soul Purpose Healing, where I bring you a spiritual chiropractic adjustment to bring you back into alignment with our Creator's love, compassion, and wisdom. Join me every Friday morning at 8 a.m. and Sunday evening at 8 p.m. for a time of unity, enlightenment, and love vibration. Shalom.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Soulful Solutions. My name is Dr. Debbie Green, my wonderful co-host, Naima Latif, our executive producer of the Female Solution. And if you're just joining us at the top of the hour, our subject matter today is life after and before divorce, marital damage control. All right, so our next factor in this is money. Money, financial failure. You could definitely say that, right? All right. So when money becomes an issue in a divorce, it can lead in a marriage. I'm sorry. When money can become an issue in marriage, it can lead to divorce. It can lead because the pressure without having to pay the bills, one, with the you have pressure without and also pressure with. You know what I'm saying? You can have a lot of money and you can have too much going on as well. You say, wait a minute, I don't understand that part. Well, think about this. When you have a lot of lucrative outcomes, the thing about this is you don't receive the pressure of not paying the bills. You know what I'm saying? You're always focused on the tangible, not on the marriage. You're focused on the tangible, not the marriage. And the other side of that is not having enough to go around. You know, so you might have one partner that says, I'm tired of working and working and working, paying the bills, and nothing seems to be happening. I still stay,
Still
struggling over
struggling.
here, still struggling paycheck to paycheck to support all the kids and the wife. And they get weary. They get weary. And it's just, it could be supporting the wife or supporting the husband,
Yeah.
or
They
whatever the
see
case
both
is.
ways.
So
Yeah.
they get weary. They get weary of doing that. Then it leads to other things. As I said, compromise, misery stops at that point and say, we need to get divorced. We need to go our separate ways.
Yeah.
It's
I can do
because
bad
I
by
can't.
myself.
Ah, I can do bad by myself. Okay,
Mhm.
there you go.
Yeah.
And that struggle becomes real. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I'm working every day, and don't seem like I can't get ahead at all
Hmm.
because you got another party. They barely working or they ain't working at
Yeah.
all.
And maybe they spending most of the money, and maybe the way they spend you think is frivolous, or maybe they're enjoying some of their pastimes that cost money, and you feel like, wait a minute, I'm paying for you to do this, and I'm not enjoying any benefits. I'm the one working, and you the one having a good time. And so they start getting resentful.
They do. They do. So money plays a big, big factor in divorce.
Yeah, we've got a caller on the line. We've got a couple of folks that raised their hands.
Okay,
So
go
yeah,
right ahead.
take a call. All right. We're gonna go to 334-505, and then we're gonna go to 813-646. So hold on, we're coming to you. And anybody else on the switchboard got something to say? Press 1. We'll come right to you and open your mic. So 334-505. Introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience. Give us your name, where you're calling from, and your comments today for Dr. Debbie Green. Go right ahead.
Reverend Michael Bowen, Selma, Alabama, one nation, one dream.
Hey.
Safe haven, set to prevent
Thank
the
you for joining
23rd
us.
anniversary of Stop the Violence rally, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, March and Caravan, Monday, January the 16th, 2023.
Well, that's great and that's wonderful. But we want you to share your wisdom regarding because we've got Dr. Debbie, who's a brilliant therapist. So we want to take advantage of her time here and help those who are struggling to maintain their families. And we know that you are a community person that sees the importance of family. So do you have a question for Dr. Debbie Green or a thought to share regarding the topic that we're discussing? We love you, but we do want you to stay on topic.
Okay, exactly. We support family 100%. I'm a teacher of conflict resolution, whether it be in the jailhouse or the courthouse or wherever out in the streets or in the homes. That's what we do here in the Safe Haven Center. The family is so important, and the man in the house is still that figure that holds. Of course, I know there's the female solutions, and we like to say, well, the mother holds the family together. But it's so vitally important when the man is present in the home and you have unity in the home. Of course, I'm a preacher first, so I'll say where there's unity, there's strength. And we must have a family, that, especially that mother, that father, working together as a team. We call it teamwork. And the offspring could see that teamwork and carry that teamwork over into eventually their family.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so now in your conflict resolution work, how do you get people to compromise when they're both angry, especially, in situations with, I'm sure as a pastor, you've probably been called to help married couples resolve conflicts. And I know sometimes, which I don't feel good about, the woman is kind of expected to sort of swallow her feelings and just do what her husband says. I know that's been a very strong teachings in many patriarchal kind of church teachings. And I'm not putting you on the spot, but this happens. And so women are conditioned to sort of swallow their misery for the sake of keeping a marriage together. But real conflict resolution is when everybody gets what they need, or at least compromises so that there is some level of satisfaction on both sides. So how do you handle that when you have couples where there is a conflict?
Okay, well, what happens first is we define the word conflict. That's my first class. What is conflict? Conflict is a normal part of any healthy relationship. After all, two people can't be expected to agree on everything all the time. The key is to fear or try to avoid conflict, but to learn how to resolve it in a healthy way. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship where two people could come to some type of border of agreement, because we never gonna be able to agree on everything. But we could reach each other and break it down in a halfway. When conflict is mismanaged, just to the other side of it, it can cause great harm to a relationship. But when handled in a respectful, positive way, of conflict provides an opportunity to strengthen the bond between two people. It's showing you that you don't have to totally agree with me. Okay?
That's right.
But it's strengthened between two people when you're expecting conflict at home, work, or social. Learning these skills can help you resolve differences in a healthy way and build stronger, more rewarding relationships. So there's a borderline. I don't like to have the Lakers and you like the Knicks. But we could come together as a team and say, okay, I'll watch the Lakers tonight if you'd agree to watch the Knicks tomorrow night. That's a definition of agreement. It's coming to a borderline of agreement, so we can have an understanding and we could build off of that and start, instead of having the word conflict, to play into our relationship. I mean, I don't want to do it, but that's much part of it. What we encounter here. Is that enough?
Well, yes, sir. Well, we thank you
so much. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll be looking for you all on Monday. We know you'll be down in Selma, Alabama. So we'll be looking for some live reports from you. So we appreciate you so much. Thank you for calling in and sharing your wisdom with us today. We're going to go to area code 813-646. Sorry, y'all, I didn't put in my context this morning. I'm squinting. Yes, 813-646.
LA.
Hey, LA, how are you?
Hello.
Just real quick, I got like 5 or 6 quick bullet points on this. We're in an age, all of us around the globe, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, or we're in an age of disruption. So things that worked for somebody 10, 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it's a new day. It's an age of disruption. Sears is on life support. Kmart went out of business.
Life support.
Amazon comes to your door. So we're in an age of disruption. So if people don't, which leads to my second bullet point, many of us around the globe, particularly anybody over, I would say 40 years old, a lot of us need to develop new skill sets. I'm learning carpentry. Okay, so you need to learn a new skill set. Or sets, more than one thing. The fourth bullet point is, the third bullet point is, you have a lot of people now, particularly youngsters, that they're building their own debt-free house. They don't do FHA, they don't have nothing to do with the government. They're watching YouTube videos and they're building their own debt-free houses. They've looked at their parents and their grandparents and say, look, I'm not getting stuck like that. So they're building their own houses. It's really like a quiet insight bank revolt, because a lot of people just are not. Matter of fact, that's another thing. A lot of people are not dealing with banks anymore. Me personally, I haven't used any kind of bank services in the last 4 years. There's a thing called fintech, which PayPal, Apple Pay, Venmo, they're going that route.
Right.
They're not having anything to do with Wells Fargo or Bank of America. Now, here's the big one, particularly when it comes to couples or even individuals. You need to start looking at your yearly income as your monthly income. And I've observed this with, for instance, if you're living in Southeast Asia, like say the Philippines, or even Mexico, where they're on the peso, you might need 30,000 to 50,000 pesos a month to sustain a family. That's not enough of luxury, but just the basics. Now, for people that live in the West, if you live in the United States or Canada or Europe and you're on the euro, you need to start thinking about, okay, if I'm earning $25,000, $35,000, $50,000 a year, you need to figure out a way due to inflation, and you need to figure it out kind of quickly on how I can make $50,000 per month. You might not spend that, but you need to have that coming in. I would also say look at Generation Z. That's people like ages 12 to like 25, Generation Z.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Generation Z that they're building their own houses. Some of these people have, can you imagine somebody 21 years old who's visited every country in the world?
Oh, yeah.
You have a lot of
it's possible.
Yeah, my daughter's been to about 20 countries.
Yeah. But at the same time, they don't have a car note, they don't have a mortgage, and they don't have college loans. So once again, this is a need to disruption. And the last thing, or two last things, some people are saying, you know what, and this is black folk, you know what, I live in D.C., I live in Los Angeles, I live in Miami, I live in Chicago. We got all these social problems, we got all these government programs, especially some people, and Freedom Georgia Initiative is one of them, because they started as 3 black women out of, Metro Atlanta. They said, you know what, instead of trying to fix Atlanta, we're going to buy they're up to 502 acres now. We're going to start our own town. You have a bunch of people doing that around the globe. And the last thing is, instead of shopping at Whole Foods, a lot of people saying, I'm going to the farmer's market or I'm going to grow my own food. So that's where we're at with this age of disruption.
Yeah. So much,
Amen.
LA.
I want that, all that.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, when people start looking at financially how disruptive that's been to the family, they realize we have to do things differently. You know, you can't put your family in this strain of a 30-year mortgage with an economy that doesn't support that. And then you end up with all these other things we talked about, like staying in a marriage that you hate because you got this 30-year mortgage and you got 15 more years to pay on it, even though you really can't stand being in the same house with that person. So you know, the financial structures that our parents grew up with don't fit the conditions we're living in and didn't really work for them. So if we learn something from that, like LA is saying, we're doing things differently. This upcoming generation is doing things differently so that
Right.
they're stress on themselves, on their marriage. They're empowering themselves to be more self-sufficient so that they don't have this constant stress of trying to keep the lights on, trying to keep the phone on, trying to keep the gas on, you know, and then turning on each other when they don't have the money to pay the car note and all this kind of thing, and being angry and always at that high stress level that destroys you physically. So they're
Yes.
observing how this lifestyle was not conducive to a harmonious relationship, and they're choosing to live another way. They're choosing to create
Mhm.
a different kind of community so that people are able to interact in a way that is harmonious and it encourages stronger families. You have more cooperative enterprises and more communal raising of children. So when you're in a community, it's a lot easier to fix the damage in a marriage because there's more encouragement from other couples.
Mhm.
There's more of an atmosphere of family life. You don't feel like you're by yourself, and it can be a positive thing if other couples are encouraging. Now, the negative thing that we talked about, of course, the in-laws who meddle and interfere and act like they're trying to break you up, that doesn't help. But if you're in an environment with people, you're part of a community where family is the economic strength, and so there's more of a support and encouragement for families to stay together and work together to remove the financial distress, then I've observed in those kind of communities the divorce rate is very low because
Correct.
there's more
Yeah.
emotional support for the family.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is very important that when a person goes into a marital agreement, they must consider all factors.
Yeah.
If they consider all factors prior to getting married and looking at what they agree and what they don't agree on and getting into a mutual understanding before marriage is a good chance their marriage will sustain troubled times. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But again, you know, we are impulsive and an emotional nation, and the thing we're more physical than we are spiritual. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spiritual, which is the energy that transmutes to me, transmutes to you.
Yeah.
Do we understand that energy between us? Is
Yeah.
that energy healthy? Is it
Yeah.
not healthy? You know what I'm saying? And examine those things so that we will be as one as the Creator wants us to be. He wants us to be as one. Because guess what? When a man and woman joins together physically, you are one component as well.
Mhm.
And you want to also be one component mentally and one component emotionally. It's not that you're going to think the same and agree on everything or disagree. No, you're on the same plateau. That means that I understand who you are. I understand what I don't agree with you and what I do agree with you, but I still rest in that. I still rest in that contentment. You know what I'm saying? So that I don't get to this point where I feel victimized. That's leading to this other factor, past issues.
Mm. Holding grudges.
Past issues. Well, not just holding grudges, Naima, past issues of damaged relationships,
Oh.
prior to actually going into a marriage. That person is not over the relationship prior to that. So what it is that they think they got over it, but they did not. So they did not have enough time to heal. Here we go. We call it the rebound marriage. Okay. The
Mm.
rebound marriage is where you've been in a difficult divorce, and it could have been domestic violence or any of the other factors that destroyed that marriage. So what happens is, instead of you giving yourself time to breathe through another relationship, most people do not, because they're looking for somebody to help heal them. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to focus on that. I want to, then you meet this new person. This new person, oh, it's so beautiful, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But this person may see your vulnerability,
Yeah.
or you may look at this person very similar to you look in your last relationship. They may not know that you're looking at them from that platform. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
then as time goes on, here comes a little ripple, all right? Here comes some problems. Automatically, you reverse back in your past relationship. Oh, you just like the rest of them.
Ooh, I've heard that.
You just like the rest of them. I
Sounds like
thought
my
you
ex.
loved me. I thought
Yeah.
you was there for me. I see that this relationship is not even 2 years old yet. We have
Mm,
been married for 2 years, and you remind me of my ex-wife. You remind me of my ex-husband.
yeah. Seen that
What
all the
went wrong
time.
in that? What went
Seen that
wrong?
all the
That
time.
person was not healed.
Yes.
That person was not healed
And
before
they,
they
they
went into another relationship.
and
So
they
here
created the
comes
very same condition that they just left.
it's
They created it. They don't even
that's
realize
what I'm saying.
they
It's
created
mentally.
it left. Yeah.
It was a virtual problem, right? Virtual mindset. The
Yeah.
mindset that you did not heal from your past relationships, then going into another relationship. I truly believe, and I'm not an expert, but I believe somebody needs to have 6 months to a year before going into a serious relationship after coming out of difficult relationship.
And maybe even more than that, because depending on how deep
Hey,
the damage was, you
that's
don't
the
even
minimum,
realize.
baby. That's the minimum. Because some
Yeah.
people they don't like being alone. Let me tell you something, Naima. People hate being alone. They
Yeah.
don't like being alone. They're used to having a counterpart, a
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
They're
They don't
used to
feel
having
whole.
somebody laying next to them. They're so comfortable with having somebody in the house.
Yes.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So again, there you go.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
gotta learn
you're
how to
looking
be
at it.
alone before you can be with someone else. You have to enjoy your own company,
Yes.
solitude, before you can really be a healthy partner for someone else. Because
Yes.
they can't fulfill all your needs. You must fulfill your needs. And then you're sharing yourself with someone, but you must feel whole before you try to share yourself with someone. And that's what a
That
lot
is
of people don't understand. You have to enjoy your own company first. Enjoy being by yourself first. It doesn't mean you have to live a life of being lonely, but if you don't like being around you, why would someone else? So you should be able to enjoy your own company first and really examine what just happened. Not blame yourself. Oh, I'm so horrible. I'm so this. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. Not that, but really examine the things, like all the things you said, and they need to really examine what happened to unravel the relationship, and how can I make different choices the next time so that I don't recreate that same situation. Otherwise, you'll keep going through that same thing over and over again, just be different people, but it's the same thing because it's coming from you. You're creating that with whoever you're with, because the issue is inside of you. And that's
yes.
how come when I hear people say, when I hear men say, "Oh, ain't no good women out here," I know it's them. When I hear women say, "Ain't no good men out here," I know it's them, because they keep recreating that same situation with everybody they get with, because they haven't taken the time, like you just said, to examine themselves, to be by themselves, to heal from the hurt, so they can stop recreating that same damaging situation.
Right. And they got to know they're free. They
Yeah,
have to live their freedom. And
yeah,
living freedom is being comfortable in your own skin, being comfortable with you, regardless, and don't allow fear to play a big factor in your life, because it's easy for one to feel inferior. It's
yeah,
easy for one to feel victimized. It's easy for one to feel enslaved or failure Oh, I failed the marriage. I failed myself. I failed my children. And we go back into that mindset of fear-based thinking. What
Yes.
else are you going to gravitate to you? Somebody else who has a fear-based thinking. That's what it
Mm.
is. Whatever you got in you, you're going to attract what's inside of you,
Like what
right?
you are. Yeah.
So you take your time and you reevaluate your life, not from what was, but what is. Because we're tripod beings, mind, body, and soul, but we're also having a tripod experience. What was, what is, and what is coming before you. So you're always going through these mindsets. Just because your body is in the present, that doesn't mean your mind don't travel to the future or the past.
Right.
So you give yourself enough time to brace yourself, but most of all to comfort yourself and to be emotional available for you. It's okay. It's all right. You didn't fail anything. It just didn't happen. Something didn't complete. Something didn't connect. And a lot of times we don't always find out the why.
Right.
We just we happenstance, which means we assume, we think, we prejudge. Oh, you don't love me because,
Yeah.
if you got evidence, you got truth. Okay, if you got a proven truth matter, okay, you can then say, you can stand on that. But assumptions, I assume you don't love me because you did this and you did that. But if there's no evidence, then you're putting yourself in a bad position, and you can't heal when you are assuming. Only truth can set you free, just so you know. Okay, so
Yeah.
like I said, these factors play so much roles into this. And I don't know, do we take another break at this
Yeah, I think we
point?
got to take our last break. And thank you
Yeah.
so much, LA, for sharing those thoughts. We appreciate you so much. And anybody else who's on the switchboard, feel free to press 1 and share your thoughts as we continue to talk about life before, during, and after divorce.
Because that's what
So,
the next 30 minutes going to be.
absolutely.
Control, damage
Ooh,
control. We done talked about the factors.
that sounds fantastic. Well, stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be right back after this quick break. So, we want you to stay with us.
Our kids are the future and should not be left behind. One person should not decide what is the best for our 77 communities. Politicians must work together for our kids' best interests. They deserve a safe education with resources that meet every student need. Let's rebuild and restore Chicago. Vote for me for mayor of Chicago. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Willie Wilson for mayor.
What if you could live to be 120 years old and remain active, healthy, alert, and vibrant? Our bodies are made up of cells that are constantly rejuvenating. So if we take proper care of ourselves, we can literally defy aging. Join us every Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time to learn about self-care from Tucson Essentials on the Female Solution Blog Talk Radio Show. Learn how to help your body and your cells feel rejuvenated each day through proper nutrition, sleep, frequency medicine, and many unconventional methods of self-care. I'm Jody Susan. Join me and my amazing guests by calling in at 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak. We'll help you achieve a breakthrough in your health today. Do you want to live in a world without war? Join our global peace movement. Heavenly Culture World Peace Restoration of Light transcends culture, religion, ideology, and other boundaries to achieve peaceful harmony in the global society. HWPL is committed to bringing world peace and cessation of war through peaceful dialogue between religious groups. I am Director Shin-Suk Kim of the HWPL Chicago branch of North America. Join us for our next gathering. Call 1501 and be a part of the movement for world peace. Email us at chicagohwpl@gmail.com.
All right, all right. We are at the top of our hour on the Female Solution and welcoming everybody to the screen. I am so silly. Okay, my name is Dr. Debbie Green, and this is Soulful Solution on the Female Solution. All right, then. Okay, with our wonderful host. Hey, me. With our wonderful co-host. Okay, Naima Latif, our executive producer. It's always to laugh. Laughter is wonderful.
Yes.
It
Laughing
is
is a
wonderful.
whole lot in life.
I'm
Absolutely.
telling you, it's all right just to just joke and just enjoy life, regardless of problems,
Yeah.
situations, or circumstances, because laughter has a medicine that's endurable. Trust and believe. Okay, so we've already we talked about all of, and that's not all of the factors. Those are just the main ones
Some
that
of the
Dr.
main.
Dale picked out that really I hear every day. You know what I'm saying? Because of my workplace, working in a mental health hospital, I get the opportunity to hear up close and personal how even divorce or failed relationships or damaged relationships can affect a person's life, right? So, we this is reality to us. So let's go on the other side of that coin. Let's do some damage control. How can one control their life after divorce, after the damage? You know what I'm saying? The first thing you have to know is self-awareness. You have to have a self-awareness about yourself. Know what you are feeling. Understand what you've been through, what had been a damaging thing. Okay? Don't minimize. Don't walk in denial. Don't walk in fear. You know what I'm saying? Say to yourself, okay, that hurt. All right? Don't pretend like it didn't hurt. You don't want mama, sister, brother. You don't want nobody else to know, friends and your peers. You don't want to share that with anyone. You know what I'm saying? But know that this too shall pass. So that self-awareness is extremely important to you. Once you get to self-awareness, then the next thing you're going to do is going to go into this thing called acceptance. All right, because you're going to experience some grief. You will go through a grief stage. I don't care if you ignore it or not and make pretend it's not there. You're going to go through it because the body, the mind, the soul is going to experience it. Because this person's been in your life. So quite naturally, you're going to miss them. You're going to feel something about them. You know what I'm saying? You may feel all kinds of mixed emotions. All right. So you're going to go through emotional trauma. You may even go through anger, guilt. You may even go through the bargaining stage. What I should have done this. I should have done that. You know what I'm saying? You may go through all of this, the what they call emotional roller coasters of a failed relationship. But you have to remember a relationship only fails when two parties are not in mutual agreement. It's not one side. It's no one side fits all. No, it's two parties have to come together so that it takes two for a marriage. It takes two to have a relationship. No, you can't have a one-sided relationship because that bird ain't gonna fly. It's gonna fall to the ground. And that's how we get to that point anyway. So acknowledge that and then understand your own truth. I tried. Okay. Even though I could not do everything that I wanted to do in a relationship, but I gave it my best shot. Okay. So I'm going to move on. I choose to move on. I want to move on, I hope, with a wisdom that I am gaining from this relationship, not thinking that, it's a bad thing. I think people should stop labeling bad things and good things. No, it was neutral. It's something I went through. And I'm not minimizing pain. Please understand. I'm trying to help you rationalize through it. Because a lot of times we keep saying, oh, that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. The subconscious mind then looks at it and feels it a whole different way. So guess what? It's going to look at something difficult, right? Okay, so Our goal is to put ourselves in a position where we can logical, reasonable, rational move in transition. You see what I'm saying? Will it affect other people? Absolutely. Because we have children in marriages. Children is one of those things that are greatly defected and affected by a marriage. We've seen them. I see them all the time. Teenagers, younger children between the age of 12 and 17, when their parents are going through a marriage, the divorce, they find it very difficult. A lot of them, you guys are not going to tell you. Not going to tell you, oh, I hate that you don't love mommy, or I hate that daddy doesn't love mommy, or daddy doesn't love his wife, or mommy don't love her husband, or I don't understand. Why are you guys splitting up? Is it because of me? A lot of them blame themselves. Maybe because I'm not a good child. I'm not this. I'm not that. And then they get into these other rifts, as I call it. Okay, becoming dysfunction so badly that they become depressed. And they get a lot of anxiety, and they get a mental illness. Okay, this stuff is real, right? Okay, so here comes those things. So again, emotional stability as emotional ability. Okay, that means be emotional available for your spouse and for your children in this season. Whatever you're going through, if you choose to get a divorce, say, okay, let me be emotionally available. Okay, say, what, Dr. Dan, what does that mean? That means you're gonna feel on the other side, not just on your side, feel on the other side of the coin. You see what I'm saying? So how would I feel if this happened and that feel or whatever? Put the shoe on the other foot, right? And that's so that you can balance. Because if you just think me, 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 you're not going to be able to see both sides of the coin. And I know you may feel that I'm the one that's being abandoned. I'm the one that's feeling okay, that's okay. You can still feel that, but I need you to get on the other side of the coin too, so that you can get balance, so you don't feel a victim. Because most people that feels like something's always happening to them, they feel victimized. Guess what? You can't find a solution if you're a victim. You'll
Right.
always stay in chains and balls. I'm seriously. And guess what's going to happen? If you stay victimized in that relationship, the next relationship you have is going to fail.
You're going to recreate that same situation.
It's an automatic thing because you're keeping the ball going.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is the third one. You have to forgive. You have to forgive yourself, and you also forgive the other person. You say, "Oh, I can never forgive them because they hurt me so bad. They slept around on me. They committed adultery. They treated me like this. They treated me like that." Okay, that may be true, but I need you to get out of victim mentality. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? The only way to get out of victim mentality is to forgive yourself and forgive someone else, because you take the power back. Forgiveness is not saying that you agree with what they did. It tells you, it frees you up. It frees you up so you can move on.
Yeah. Letting go
You
of the
take it.
anger, because the energy
Yes.
that you're holding is going to keep attracting
Yes.
to you that same situation, even if you get with another person. So you have to let go of the energy of anger that's magnetizing to you another relationship that you don't want, or that ends in a way that you don't want.
Right. Yeah, because it will be an influencer. It will be an influencer. And the other part about that is it will cause, again, a dysfunction even in the family, not
Mm,
just between you and the person, but with the kids. Because we know this for sure. When mom or dad, after they come out of divorce, they immediately go into another relationship. Children don't like that. They don't like change abruptly. You got to give them time. You got to
time.
give them time to adjust to not having those components together anymore, and gradually introduce that person to those children. Don't just think about yourself. Please be emotional available when it comes to your children as well as yourself. That those are very important components. The fourth thing is get therapy. All right. I don't care if you think, oh, I don't want nobody to know what I'm feeling inside. I can handle this. No, you can't. Not by yourself. If you are in emotional pain and mental pain, you need therapy. If there's no mutual understanding between you and that other person with this divorce, you need therapy. And you need to get family therapy because your children have something to say too. Help them to rationalize, help them to accept what has already happened. Just don't assume that they're okay because
Yeah.
they're not. You won't find out until they start festering. Oh,
Right.
trust and believe. You go into another relationship and your child starts staying in the room, don't want to come to the kitchen table no more, don't
Yeah.
want to talk to you. They start
Start
shutting
staying
down
out all
school.
night. Yeah, start showing out in school. And the thing I want to say about therapy also, because we have such an extreme stigma about getting help for emotional hurt. But now, if you broke a leg, would it make sense for somebody to say, "Oh, don't go to the doctor. Just hey, tough it out. You should be strong enough to handle it." Wouldn't you think that was ridiculous? When you know you need a professional to help reset that bone and put your leg in a cast, give it time to heal. You know that that's the logical thing to do if you're physically hurt. It's the same thing with emotional hurt. It's a wound or a breakage, just like if it was physical. So it makes sense to go to that kind of a doctor, that kind of a professional for the help you need to heal. Just thinking, oh, it'll work itself out. I should just tough it out. You can't. Just like if you don't go to a doctor and heal a broken leg, it'll heal wrong and then you'll be limping because your bones aren't fitting together right. It's the same thing if you don't get help after an emotional broken condition, then the healing is wrong. You'll be misshapen, you'll be dysfunctional because you didn't go through the whole process that Dr. Debbie's talking about of examining each step of the situation so you can be made whole, just like you need to make that bone that broke whole again. So therapy is
Right.
not a negative, it's a necessary.
Yes, yes. It's necessary for mental stability and mental flexibility. Because whatever's inside of you, you haven't told anyone or expressed the deep embedded hurt from a divorce. Those words, that energy stays inside, and it can cause what they call soul scarring. And the soul scarring is the thing that actually produces the rifts or the cycling in a broken relationship to continue into another broken relationship and another broken relationship. So heal. Allow yourself to heal. Allow yourself to get those things out of you. And journaling is another one. Thought provoking ideas. Looking at different ways, the support groups, whatever you need to do to finalize this event in your life, you need to do it instead of going on and on and on and not thinking that I'm saying that you have totally went through the process. Again, we can pray about it, but we got to do something because a faith without work is dead. Okay, so it means that you got to do some behavior change, some behavior action, behavior modification, changing habits and responses so that you can heal and revamp, repower, and reprogram your mind after divorce because it's extremely important. It's extremely important. It's important to you, but it's also important to your children. You see what I'm saying? Because you don't want to find yourself later on in life, feeling depressed and you don't know why you're depressed. You know what I'm saying? Because of something that you've been holding on to and you don't know why you're not happy. Even when the relationship you may be in should be okay, but what's going on with me? You know what I'm saying? Those are components from broken relationships and holding suppression and of the energy of the words, actions, and not allowing yourself to be free and seeing your own transparency. Okay, and it's all right. You ain't weak. You're not weak. One has to be. You have to know what self humility is. You have to be humble with yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then people go through this. They can here come with another failed marriage. Listen,
Mm.
oh my God, I don't had this is my third failed marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, what's
And
going on?
that's why that language is difficult. If a
Yeah,
person has
fail.
been married several times and they feel like a failure, then they feel like, just like anything else, you feel like you failed at. You feel like, well, I guess I can't do this. I must not have the skills. I must not be good enough. I must not be smart enough. Whatever it is you think so-called success in a marriage is, and you keep telling yourself, I have failed, then maybe I shouldn't even try it again because I apparently don't have what it takes to do it right. And maybe what happened is that after the end of each marriage, you didn't examine what happened enough to not blame yourself, but understand maybe the patterns of hurt that you're carrying that keep getting presented in your marriage. But it doesn't mean you're a failure as a person. So
Right.
I've known so many associates that are emotionally scarred with the idea that they have failed, that they're afraid to try it again, and they're angry and hurt. Maybe they're angry at the opposite sex. Maybe they don't want to try the opposite sex anymore, whatever it is, but they're carrying the pain of their feeling of failure. And if there's one other thing I wanted to mention, even when people marry somebody, the idea is that this is my possession. I own
Yes.
you. So if a marriage ends, the thought is I've lost a possession. And you can't own a person. You can't own the soul of a person. You can't own the rights to their emotions. You can't own their body. You can agree to have a companionship and experience life together. But if the companionship is not bringing the comfort that it was meant to, if you
Hmm.
choose to part ways, you haven't lost them. You've ended that relationship. And sometimes people can end a marriage, no longer living together, and everything else, but still have respect for each other, still have regard for each other, even still mutually parent. But like you say, most times people are not that logical. They're so steeped in their own emotional pain and blaming and feeling like, they lost something, or someone abandoned them or left them or hurt them or betrayed them. And so it's difficult for them to still see that person as someone they can be
Hmm.
civil to, because they see them as someone who did something to them. Like you said, the victim mentality. You did this to me, as opposed to you experienced something that made you change behaviors. I experienced something made me change behaviors. We're no longer in a harmonious situation. So for our mutual benefit, we need to part ways. And I need to grow in my own direction. You need to grow in your own direction, for whatever the
Right.
circumstance. And that's what's hard for people to do with all those concepts of I own you, you are my possession, I lost you, someone took you from me, all of those kind of thoughts. I failed, all the negative things that we say to ourselves, and the negative energy we bring to the next relationship, which may cause it to repeat again and again.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I'm saying one has to be emotional available for oneself. And it's not selfish to do it, it's called selfness. Selfness is the ability that you give yourself permission without anyone else's permission to feel through your stuff. You feel through your stuff. A lot of people we trying to feel for somebody else, but we got to feel for ourselves. How do I feel about this? What's going on in my heart? What I'm saying, can I handle this? Or what I cannot handle? What should I do? You predetermine those areas, and then once you predetermine those areas, then you consider what someone else is doing. Like I said, that's why you put the shoe on the other foot, so you can consider what this person is going through as well. So you don't look at it as being the brink of all the pressure upon yourself. Because it's time, one thing about divorce, this is what this means. When one divorces, it's time to start over. That's what you're doing. You're starting over. Nobody likes change. We don't like change. We don't want to start over. We want everything to remain the same, but it's time to start over. When you
Yeah.
starting over, forgiveness, therapy, feeling empowered, self-evaluation, going through your grief stage is critical to you. It's critical Because again, if you don't go through the proper I call it nurturements for your mind and your heart, okay, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to fall apart. And that's not an option. You don't want to do that. That's not your desire. You know how many people go into divorce and find it hard just to go to work? Huh?
Yes.
How to
Yeah.
they going through divorce because they and find it difficult to raise their children?
Yeah. You know, you don't realize when you're emotionally traumatized, you know, and that's
Exactly. You don't.
part you don't know when you know when you're physically traumatized. Like you say, you know, you fall, break a leg, break an ankle, you know that you're physically traumatized. You know you got to get some help for that. Emotional trauma is not something that you can see. But when you can't function, that is a sign. When you can't concentrate, when you can't get out of the bed in the morning, you can't stop crying, you lose your
Depression.
appetite or you're overeating. I mean, all the things that show that you are traumatized by a deeply impacting experience, a condition. You have to nurture yourself and help yourself get through that, and not think you can just snap out of it, because you can't. It is an impactful situation in your life,
It is.
life changing,
Yes.
and you have to
Hmm.
heal from the hurt. We got a couple of calls. We got a caller on the line. Got a moment. Maybe you can take a minute to if you got a question for Dr. Debbie Green, or if short thing to share to lend some insight as we talk about life before, during, and after divorce. 312-671. I believe this is Minister Robert Floyd Plump. I love you, brother, Minister Robert Floyd Plump. I know y'all going to Selma. We're going to send y'all some money, but say something about divorce so we can stay on topic. I love you. Go ahead. Your mic is open.
Yes, I apologize. Leo and Yashalom. We experienced a divorce ourselves, but I know from that experience it was traumatizing to me. However, I was able to overcome through prayer, a relationship with God, and I still kept my relationship with my ex-wife, and we still build a family together. I just want to say this: if brothers and sisters want to get married, be sure to call Minister Plump at 312.
All right now.
671-27.
Well, thank you, Minister Plump.
The family is never to a village.
Well, all right now. There's somebody gonna help you get married. So if you thank you so much, Minister Plump. We love you, and we are gonna send y'all some money to go to Selma. We gonna do that. Yeah, they're going to that big celebration on Monday. So I think it's important that if you are hesitating to get married because you think that it can be too painful, and you've had several so-called failed relationships, just go through these steps Dr. Debbie Green is talking about. Hey, you got a minister right here that'll marry you if you've been in that relationship 10, 20, 30 years. Go on and tie the knot and put some legalities behind it, so that that person don't have to fight to get what they rightfully should have, because they've been buying property and things with you all these years. You have to trust again. That's my thought. Anyway,
Yes, absolutely.
got time to wrap up right here before we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's several key components in any successful, sustainable relationship of marriage. Is that trust is the major one. You have to trust. You have to have God, and I mean, for those who believe God, the Godhead is very important. You have to trust yourself as an individual in a marriage. You know what I'm saying? That you have the ability to bring something to the table. And once you do that again, go back and look at this, recording, and you ask yourself, have I considered all of that before getting married? You know, and am I struggling in any of those areas before getting married? Because if you have not finalized those components, those factors in your life, they're going to arrive. They're going to come up at some given point. It may not be at the beginning stages, but trust and believe you're going to visit them, okay? Because it's a part of life, and you got to know if your strength supersedes your ability to deal with dysfunction. Because that's what it is. There's no perfect marriage. I don't care how much they smile at you and say, "Oh, you love each other." Let me tell you this real quick. I have this wonderful couple that I am advising. Saying, and they were married for 61 years. And I asked the mommy. I call them mommy and daddy, right? I said, "What is the secret of a sustainable marriage?" She said, "Put God first and love them regardless under conditions. Don't condition them. Love them for who they are and let the conditions fall where they may."
That's what we're here to learn. Unconditional love.
Unconditional love, people. Thank you so much, Facebook, for joining me. Always, Queen Zelda saying self-care is crucial. Where she is. All right, self-care is crucial. Marriage will consume if no daily self-care first. Absolutely. Thank you, Blog Talk.
All right.
Thank you, Blog Talk, for listening. Continue to listen to us every Thursday, Monday through Friday, and Sunday. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, YouTube.
Love y'all.
Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. Don't be bashful. Y'all know y'all need this.
That's right. Get some counseling. Get some help. Yes. If you want to save your marriage, get some help. If you get a divorce, maybe you can learn how to do it friendly. Get some help.
Yes. Friendly divorce is always better than a bitter one, baby. Every time. Every time. Thank you. Much love to you. Goodbye.
Watch our TV show.